Honourable Dr. Mahend Gungapersad, or Sir, as I used to and still call you. I think I'm going to find it hard to call you anything else but Sir throughout this podcast. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you for your time. It's been a busy week, as I can imagine.
For me, it's a real pleasure to be invited by you. I know how popular your podcasts are.
At all.
And indeed, it is an honor to see a former student reaching the heights that you have reached.
Thank you.
I'm very, very proud of what you have achieved. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to participate in this open heart discussion with you.
I couldn't think of anyone better for this. I think for those who are watching, our connection goes back to when I was 15 years old. I was coming to you for private tuition. You were our general paper teacher. And I remember coming to your class on Sundays with my twin sister. And I remember the very first time, actually, you asked us to write an essay. And I think you picked mine and I was asked to read it in front of the class. And then since we also remember when you celebrated our 18th birthday in front of everyone. So you've always had a very special place in our hearts. I know today I'm speaking to you in your position as the Minister of Education and Human Resources, but throughout this conversation, I think there's a lot of gratitude that I also wanted to express. So once again, thank you.
I'm so proud again, I'll say, because you have been one of my most brilliant students that I have had. And it has been an effortless teaching session because I didn't have to do much because dedicated and passionate as you were, I don't think I contributed much except that I was there. And definitely that first essay that you wrote, it was the best in the class. And that is why I asked you to read it for your friends so that they could understand what is the benchmark. And I hope many had to struggle in order to reach that level. So kudos to you and congrats to whatever heights you have achieved.
You're going to make me cry. Can we set the scene for the podcast? It's been amazing seeing your journey overseas as a teacher, as a rector. We know of your family, we know of your kids, but deep down, you've always been someone super, always humble, very modest. And we are going to get into some of the achievements, the struggles, before you got elected and before you became the Minister of Education and Human Resources. I'm sure there must have been a lot of difficulties and struggles that came along your way for knowing your personal journey. But can we go back to maybe your childhood? I know of your mom and dad, you've always spoken so highly of them. And one thing that really stayed with me, throughout you being a teacher, you've always spoken of how you would never leave the village of Goodlands, how you would always be around your parents. Let's go back to your childhood and speak about them for a second.
It is important that I make it clear because people have spread a lot of false rumors currently that I don't live in Goodlands. Mm-hmm. You can't imagine the number of people who have easily accepted this fake news that I don't live in Goodlands. I can't understand how come people could spread something false because, every morning, my Vipsus come to fetch me at my place in Goodlands, and there is a police station which is close to my house. This is where they have to take the weapon that they have to use and the car, all the entries. And in the evening, they drop me. In spite of that, people keep asking me, where do you live? As you rightly said, I lost my father last year, but my mom is still here. And as long as my mom is here, I would always stay with her. Okay, this is what I promised myself, and I have kept that promise. And I love Goodlands so much. I have always lived over there. Coming to childhood, I think it is important for people to understand how childhood sometimes molds our personality. Mm-hmm. Sometimes rightly, sometimes wrongly, I don't know. Because, when you're a child and you do not have certain things, certain privileges, certain facilities like others have, you pine for them, you long for them, and you tell yourself you have to strive in order to get that. Mm-hmm. So definitely my parents come from a very modest background, but one thing they have always believed in, it is education. So they invested everything, I will call, the last sweat of their forehead for their 3 kids. And I'm happy that not only me, but my 2 sisters also did very, very well. And they are professionals in their own right today. So it is not only me, but it is a collectively. The 3 kids of my parents have done very, very well. But what inspired me a lot, what instigated me to work hard, is the hard work of my father. He was someone who was working hard in the fields. He was a vegetable planter, and I would see him tired, working hard, and so on. And I said, if he could spend so many hours in the scorching sun, then he's giving me this privilege to study in the comfort of my room. Why should not take advantage of that? And he never allowed me to join him in that area. So my father basically was, is, and will always be my hero figure, in spite of not having academic qualifications, but he had values. And those values, along with my mother, they inculcated them, they instilled them in us. And I think these are the values which have molded, shaped our personality, my personality in particular. And it was a tough childhood, I would say, but there was a lot of discipline where my parents insisted on a few things like honesty, humility, respect for others. And, you have to be somebody who is always willing to help others. You have to visit the temple regularly. You have to do social service. My father was a planter. And after every harvest, he had this habit of calling me on Friday evening. He would fill plastic bags with vegetables so that I would move to the 5 houses on the right side of our house and 5 houses on the left side of our house. Whatever be the price of the vegetables, he would always be somebody who'd like to offer them something. And I think that element of generosity is something which he has inculcated in us, that we should be generous. If we have something, we better share. And these are simple things. We have to respect our elders, especially our teachers. And whatever we undertake, we have to undertake it with seriousness, with commitment. And somehow they taught us, my father and my mother, that work is worship. So do your work as if it is you're worshiping. It is useless to worship if you do not have these inherent values in you. This is how I look back at my childhood.
And that's so beautiful. Throughout your profession as an educator, as a teacher, and then obviously you took on the challenge of joining RTSS, which was the school that you brought up along with Mrs. Kavita Bakori. We actually had Mr. Sanjay Bakori yesterday, and he spoke very highly of you. He spoke of how more recently you were invited to the school, and then they brought along all the kids of the very, very first batch, the students who are now doctors, engineers, lawyers, and they played a song for you called Sir, and he was telling me, and he was recounting how you got emotional. How important was it for you to create something out of nothing? Because I certainly recall all the lessons and the policies you were telling us about the school which you were part of.
So I would say I was lucky to become one of the youngest rectors in this country. So at the age of 33, imagine at the age of 33, I got the responsibility to run a secondary school. And formerly, I was a teacher at the Mahatma Gandhi Institute, where I was a student. So I was a member of staff in the staff room. Most of my colleagues were my former teachers. At the age of 33, when I became the rector, many of my teachers now, not only colleagues, they were members of my staff now. Can you imagine that now? The school now, it is found, at that time it was found amidst sugarcane fields. And many students would not like to be admitted in that school. There were a lot of prejudices. One of them being that in that rural region, that rural area, they had the fear that we wouldn't be able to speak English or French. We wouldn't be able to produce good results. But I think now it is history. We have proved it wrong. And I remember at the very beginning, telling myself if the school was not to produce good result, I would quit as a rector, because there were a lot of criticisms, because people will judge you, without any reason because of your age, and they will think that you are not capable of running a school. So I took it as a challenge, and I think soon the school produced its first 2 laureates, and it maintained that a streak of very flattering results, both at school certificate and higher school certificate. Now, running that school, I think, was a sort of an experiment, but also a preparation for me. I didn't know that one day I would become Minister of Education. So it was a sort of a laboratory for me, where I had the opportunity to bring different types of policies which didn't exist in other schools. So to begin with, I remember my director asking me what could be the percentage, the percentage of the first batch of SC students. And going according to what other schools were, the performance of other schools, it should have been around 80. But my director told me, if you put all the knowledge that you have in pedagogy, in curriculum, and etc., what can it be? Then I said, let me try. But I promise you, it won't be 80. It will be well above 90. And this is what happened. And the second batch of students we sent for Cambridge examination, we had the 2 laureates. So these are things that happen. How? I remember in Form 3, those who are listening to us or watching us may not realize, in Form 3, I introduced, for example, ADMATS. I introduced ADMATS normally, which comes in Form 4. So I talked to my maths teacher. I said, okay, at least the students should know what is integration, what is differentiation, basics. And would you believe it that the school produced someone who came out first in the world in ADMATS? If I'm not mistaken, it is Zubair Bakouri.
Yep.
Now, to address the issue that we people from rural areas, we are not good in languages, so I made it a must to bring DELF Scolaire and also l'Alliance Française, and I would send students to British Council, etc., to train students, and every year the students of the school would put up a play of Tagore in English, 1 hour 30 minutes to 1 hour 45 minutes play in English. And as you mentioned, many of the students who gave me the surprise sometime back on stage, they were those who participated in those plays, in those programs. And also, I believe in holistic education. For me, it didn't end with getting or producing good results. Students had to do extracurricular activities, be it football, volleyball, kite flying, dancing, drama, singing, you name it. I gave them these opportunities. And also, some students doing biology who are aspiring to take up medicine years later, I contacted the then Commissioner of Police and requested the students to go and attend what is a post-mortem. I sent them so that they had a first-hand experience of how it happens. And many, they just dropped, they couldn't.
I would.
Yes. And fortunately, some of them are very good doctors today. I sent art students to the garden in order to draw, biology students to the nearby rivers or lake in order to see how ecosystem operates. So it was not only inside the 4 walls of the school. For example, eco students, I asked them to go for the stock exchange market, understand it, go out of the school in order to learn. So these are the things that I think I brought in that school. And most of the time, they also did a lot of social service, going to senior citizens' homes, going to a school nearby in Montaillon where we had children who were physically challenged, etc. So I wanted them to develop in all aspects of their life, their heart, their mind, their skills. And this is what I want today as Minister of Education.
I think you've clearly been a trailblazer in terms of what holistic education can be all about. As Minister of Education today, I think one of the things that I have certainly observed is that obviously, I think secondary education became free since the 1977. And since it seems that whenever we do have a change in political parties, sadly or not, the harsh reality is that sometimes the work of the predecessors tends to be unwound. Whatever policies there may have been in the past, they tend to go through an unwinding process. And maybe that's also been tricky because from the time I went for education, there certainly has been so many changes. And I know, for knowing you personally, I know how passionate you are about the topic and how important it will be for you to bring about your own changes of what you consider very core to the education system. But if we can pause for a second, what do you think are the sole points or the critical weaknesses that we currently have in our education system, if there's any at all?
I think we have to look at it differently. If there is one sector where we cannot embrace status quo, it is education. It is something very dynamic. The needs, the aspirations of the nation, the requirements of the educational sector keep on changing. And it is important to revisit whatever policies that you have brought forward. I say it for myself. Now, regarding the changes that I would like to see, or I'm very clear about changing a few things. You'd have heard me for the past 10 years that I'm responsible for the education sector as an opposition member. I have been highlighting a lot of lacunae, a lot of shortcomings in the sector. I couldn't accept, for example, that students who have not passed their PESAC examination, that is the primary school examination, the end of primary, they have not passed the examination. We take those students, we send them in secondary schools, and we ask them to take the same exam as those who have passed their PESAC. That is, we have the mainstream student, and in the past we had the extended stream.
Right.
Now, the extended stream students are our kids, but they have not mastered basic literacy, numeracy. And after 4 years of secondary, we are asking them to take a competitive examination called the NC examination. I saw that as an aberration. And I promised when I was an opposition MP that should we come to power, we are going to review it. And this is what I did. Today, we have a foundation program. And the foundation program rests on 3 axes. That is basic literacy, numeracy, and digital awareness.
Right.
Skills development, and third, values. So that we give those kids who have difficulty to follow the pace as their friends who are in the mainstream, the possibility to come to school, but to acquire new things. And the promise is at the end of their schooling, 3 years, they are going to get a certificate, which will be at the level of NC2 level, which will enable them, permit them to join vocational and training centers.
Right.
At least we equip them to face the vicissitudes of life. Second issue was those students with 5 credit were allowed to move to Form 4, that is grade 10. And many students to grade 10, I think grade 12, lower 6, that is lower 6, okay? Only students who have obtained 5 credit in grade 11 were allowed to move to grade 12. But what about those students who do not have those 5 credit? I have known a lot of tragedies. Let me be clear what I mean by that. I have attended funerals of kids out of despair. They did what they shouldn't have done when they couldn't be promoted in grade 12. So I promised myself these kids wouldn't suffer if one day I were to become the Minister of Education. It was an electoral promise. We made the promise. We told the public we are going to amend it, and we did it. Now, did people, for there are those who do not subscribe to it, they are claiming that we are going for, we are lowering the level of education, etc. We are destroying the system. Oh no, there will always be high flyers like you. There will always be some students who cannot toe the line. Now, effective educational policies should cater for both, for high flyers, even average students, but also for those students who will or have difficulties, because they are our kids. This is what I did. Now they are bringing another debate. They are talking about recruitment at the Public Service Commission level. Okay, I said this is another debate. We should give students the right to education. Okay, it is important. If you look at the SDG goals, one of them is right to education, access to education. We cannot, as a nation, bring a policy which will prevent students from staying in school. What are they asking? They're asking, even if they have 3 or 4 credit, they aspire to continue with their studies. And we have late developers in this country, in this world. We should give them this opportunity. Next is extracurricular activities, as you mentioned. Could you imagine this year we have revived again inter-college sports? This year, for so many years we didn't have. We are again coming and saying, this year, fortunately, upon my instruction, they organized inter-college dancing competition, inter-college singing competition. Next year, we are going further. Next year, we are going to see schools involved in plays, in drama, and they are going to be at regional level and at national level, because we want to give our kids opportunities to showcase their multiple talents. And talents are not limited only to academic things.
And I think you also mentioned a really good point earlier. You talked about the physically challenged students. When we think about current conditions, I was literally having this conversation with my sister-in-law who's visiting from Paris, and her daughter, who's now 10 years old, we've just discovered that she has dyslexia. 5 years, 10 years ago, these were conditions that were perhaps unheard of, or a name wasn't given to the condition. When you think about Mauritius, there are certainly so many children with vulnerable needs. I'm sure more can be done. How important that is to you is a question I shouldn't even be asking. But how are you thinking about this in your current policy?
We have a lot of students, what we call special needs students. Okay, we have various forms of physical, mental challenges that they have. And we have, under my ministry, we have an organization which looks after them. It is called a SENA, all right? And we have a lot of SEN schools, special needs schools, which cater for these students. But I'm the first one to tell you that we have a lot to do in terms of equipping those schools with professionals, with the right infrastructure, with the necessary adapted tools for these kids. And then we have to provide proper training to people involved in looking after these children, the carers, but even people who are responsible to transport those kids, even drivers, even people who have to deal with these students in one way or the other. They need training so that they know how to deal with these kids, because different kids have different types of problems. You're talking about dyslexia. We have different types of dyslexia. Okay, dyscalculia, etc., various forms. And then we have different forms of autism. So a few years ago, many parents would be shy to come forward in order to seek help. It was something taboo in our society. But fortunately now parents are understanding the needs to seek and solicit support. Again, we have a long way to go in that area, because we have to invest. We need to have professionals for different types of physical problems our kids face. And also we have to review the legal framework, because after 20, what happens to those children? I will call them children. Even if they are 30, 40, etc. What about their recreation? What about their employability? What about their visibility? What about harnessing the potential and creativity that they have? So we have a lot to do. We have started, but we still have a lot to achieve. And I think we are fully embarked in doing that. The recent budget takes cognizance of that and has provided at least something which is going in the right direction.
And what would be your message to maybe parents, where another observation of mine is that so many middle-class families are increasingly opting for private education. And I think the sad reality is that it then creates an even unequal gap between parents and families who cannot and kids who might be going for private education. I am certainly from someone who's come from a background of state school, and so many of your students and friends of mine who you would have taught as well, we have been for a state education, and I like to think we've done really well. Do you suddenly see a change in that mindset, especially with obviously the economic progress that families are going through?
I think it is a question of choice in a democratic country. It does not limit only to education. If you look at the health sector as well, though we may have public hospitals and all facilities, many people still opt for private medical attention. Similarly, for education, those who can afford, this is how society operates. And some families, though they may not have, they may not be financially too at ease, etc., but they prefer to invest in the education of their children. It is their priority, and we cannot prevent them from doing so. All right? And obviously, we have two types of system there. Okay, those who can afford to go to fee-paying pre-primary, primary, secondary, or tertiary education, and those who cannot, they rely on public schools. So what we have to do is to provide quality education in public schools. We have to ensure that students who come to public schools, be it pre-primary, primary, secondary, or tertiary, they get quality education. And for that, the state has to invest in capacity building and infrastructure, and has to provide those students a state-of-art type of facility, so that they are not denied what others are getting in fee-paying schools.
That's an interesting point. On a lighter note, do you think we can see an unwinding of, or going back to the previous system where the QEC would be girls only, the Royal College of Portly or Cupid would be boys only, or do you think that's going to be the case for years to come?
In April, we had les Assises de l'Éducation in Mauritius, and there has been serious brainstorming. Many proposals were made, and one of them definitely, as you're saying, because former QEC students, RCC and RCPL students would like their schools to revert back to unisex schools, as you're saying. But we also have others who are saying, since now we have it, mixed school, why don't we keep it up? But there is one problem. Today, for those who are watching us, there is one issue. QEC, Royal College, or what we call the academies, they become mixed as from grade 10.
Right.
From grade 7 to grade 9, they are unisex. Grade 10, they become mixed. So, won't it be better if we keep the students, if we want mixity, we allow them right from grade 7? For example, I'm a former student of a mixed school. I've always been in a mixed school.
Right.
There was never a time where I was not in a mixed school. So the continuity is important. And when you have this continuity, it helps in your personality development. That is why, for me, respect towards women, respect for women is important, because this I was taught, I learned it, I lived with girls in primary schools, in secondary schools, and at university. So when you live together as students, you become very close friends. You start understanding the opposite sex, you understand their feelings, you respect them, and this helps you in your life as a professional. Once you get married also, it shows to you how you should respect the other. So consideration will definitely be given about that point. I don't want to say much about it because we are coming with a blueprint. So I want the blueprint to talk to the public about it. But definitely we are going to address that particular question in the blueprint.
And discipline is the other thing I wanted to talk about. You have been a proponent of strict discipline. I mean, discipline as it is already a strict word, but if I may fault for you, sir, there's always been discipline and then there's been strict discipline. I recall anecdotes about you, for instance, at Rabindranath Tagore, you had this policy of no mobile phones, and you would put in efforts to make sure all the students' phones were collected and then given back to them at the end of school. It has always been a very core point to your belief of the education system. And this is more of a societal observation, not so much about education. Indiscipline has somehow fed itself, whether that's within the private education system or the public education system. And I think it is a reflection of more pertinent issues within the society: broken families, increasing divorce, kids being away from parents, obviously technology. So many changes from my days, at least, when I was in school. What is your personal belief when you see what's happening within the education system and around us?
My heart aches when I see the decadence in many schools. I can't accept when our kids misbehave. I think discipline, the best discipline is self-discipline. To begin with, punctuality. To begin with, how you manage your own studies, how you manage your health, how you manage your relationships with people. Because you shouldn't be forced to study. Because as a student, it should be your duty towards your family, towards yourself, in order to do what you should be doing. You're talking about mobile phones. Today in cabinet, I brought that issue about, I am going for nationwide consultation before coming with policies, before going to the Attorney General for regulations regarding, because I am a person who believes in consultation, in discussion, in dialogue, instead of coming and imposing it. As far back as you said, when I was a rector, definitely mobile phones were not allowed during class hours. And again, there was consultation. Would you believe it? After my discussing it with students and parents, it was student council who came forward and proposed this to the PTA, to the parents. Students convinced their parents that, during class hours, when the class is ongoing, we shouldn't be having our mobile phone. Mobile phones have to be kept away from us so that our concentration is not perturbed. And this is what happened. But not only this, because discipline does not mean only mobile phone. Discipline means you should be very careful. No smoking, no drinking, how you behave. Discipline means no cheating during exam or anything. Everything, it is a sort of a mindset that you have to develop. Discipline is the way you behave at home, in society, and in your school. Because at school, if you have a timetable, you follow it, you adhere to it, you respect it. What about at home? You need to have a similar type of discipline at home. You need a similar type of discipline on the roads when you're walking. Today, when you see some people, going away, parting away completely from their civic duties, I feel bad. And again, bunking classes, cheating parents, cheating one another, these things cannot be condoned. That is why we need to develop a sort of discipline which comes from within, which is not imposed. Because the more you talk about it, once people accept it, it is for their own welfare, things can change. Today, things have gone topsy-turvy because they believe you have to be disciplined. I don't have to be disciplined. The doctor has to be punctual, but I don't have to be punctual. The bus has to come on time, but I don't need to come on time. So
It's a you problem, not so much a me problem.
Exactly. So we shouldn't look at it like that. And the more people we can sensitize towards disciplining themselves, the better it would be. And the best place is school. And for that to happen, teachers have to be disciplined. Rectors have to be disciplined. We need to have rectors who should know their schools at their fingertips. For that to happen, rectors have to walk around along the corridors. They should know their students by their name. They should know what is happening in the school. You cannot, unfortunately, I will say there are a few schools where I think as a minister I have privileged information, perhaps more than those working over there. It shouldn't have been like that because you need to be sure if a school functions properly, you're making sure that society will be safe because this is the place where you nurture individuals who will ultimately become responsible citizens of tomorrow.
And speaking of technology, I think COVID has been an eye-opening experience for the world in terms of education, how to support the students and the kids at times when learning from home became a thing. And obviously Mauritius, with within its capabilities and capacities, we have had to adapt. The reality is that we are a small island, and tying in with the previous question about kids with vulnerable needs, but also kids coming from different financial backgrounds, having access to, for instance, a simple thing today, we'll say, like decades ago, that certainly wasn't the case, but a simple thing today as having access to a laptop, that's not a given to all students and all kids. And to the extent that you can maybe quote some statistics or maybe share information, how do you think about channeling maybe some funding towards the technology aspect to equalize or maybe level the playing field for children here and maybe to adapt to situations like the global pandemic that we have witnessed?
The students coming from vulnerable families, from extremely vulnerable families, they are eligible to get certain facilities from the government. Those families, which we call in Mauritius, those families which are in the social register, okay? So, as you may be aware, we even give them scholarships at HSC level. So, on the basis of their performance, and also if they come from families where the income is low, so some students do become laureates and they get the facilities. This is at the top. But at the bottom, what we do, those children who come from vulnerable groups, they get all different forms of facilities. And we have in primary schools, the ZEP schools, Zone d'Éducation Prioritaire. So in those schools, our kids who come from underprivileged families, they get hot meals. We provide them meals. And we also provide them other facilities. If they need school materials, they get it. If they need, let us say, a sort of an iPad or, technology related issue, they get it. So we cater for our most vulnerable kids as well. But I think the more we can do, the better it would be. But definitely, the public should realize that we do as much as we can. We have the Social Security Ministry, which caters for their needs. And vulnerable children, it is not only vulnerable in terms of finance. Vulnerability today, because of they come from broken homes, emotional needs also. Even for that, we have in schools educational psychologists. We also have social workers who look after those kids. Definitely, it does not operate in an ideal setup. We have not reached perfection. There are still a lot of loopholes over there. But we, as a nation, as far as possible, we have policies which normally cater for those kids.
I think the fact that we have educational psychologists is in itself a great change, especially within the public education system. I certainly don't recall having any at the time when we went for education. And I think speaking about what students are going through, or even the idea of going through therapy is something that's a bit more accepted today. And it's great that you can have educators in the form of psychologists picking on maybe certain things that's happening at home that the students can open up about.
I think in the past, as I said earlier, there were a lot of things which were taboo. You don't like to acknowledge that you have a problem. You don't like to open up to psychologists because the moment you talk about educational psychologists, many people, they would have a lot of stigma associated with...
You're crazy.
Yeah, with mental health. They have a lot of sympathy if you have a heart issue, if you have a liver issue, if you have an organ which is defective. But if you have a mental issue, I don't know how, why. People have associated it with so much of a stigma, but gradually there is a change in mentality. And for that, I thank a few NGOs which invested themselves in sensitizing the public. And gradually, by and by, I think people are now accepting if someone has a problem, that person needs support. They don't need our stigma, etc. And we are supporting as far as we can. Through those educational psychologists, we are helping our kids in different schools.
Last question on the topic of education, and maybe more specific and more apt to my generation. Students who have been here in Mauritius, studied in Mauritius throughout the high school education system, and then went abroad to get a tertiary education and haven't come back since. Brain drain is something we have been openly talking about on this podcast. We had a chat yesterday with Mr. Sanjay Bakori as well, and we've been having this chat more so because I keep saying on every single podcast, but I think the idea of coming back to Mauritius is something that's being taken a bit more seriously by certainly friends of my circle. The landscape abroad is changing, and it might be the tipping point between your 20s and 30s when you start realizing what's more important to you. Putting that into perspective, what's your take on brain drain? Because we certainly have a pool of talent who hasn't come back and who's still abroad. What's your take on it?
I think this issue should be viewed from multiple perspectives. Now, if locally someone who is very brilliant, who has a lot of potential, his potential cannot be properly used over here. And if that person gets this opportunity abroad, should we prevent the person? That is one question. The second question is, shouldn't we create an ecosystem in order to attract all our kids back once they have they got their training? They come and they serve their motherland. That would be an ideal situation. Right. But we live in a competitive world, and our children are global citizens today. It is good sometimes they have a taste of what is happening elsewhere. And once they have gone through some experience, they come back and they can help the country. Just like we have foreigners in Mauritius, just like we are foreigners in other countries, we go get our training, our education, we work for some time, and the expertise that we gather, we bring that expertise here and we put it at the service of the country. So obviously, as education minister, I would welcome all students. I would request all students to come back to the country. But at the same time, it would be important for us to create the environment for you to come in terms of possibilities, in terms of promotion, in terms of salary, in terms of privileges. So we have a lot of things to consider in order to make sure that everyone who goes really comes back.
Right. That is a very refreshing and also very honest take from you. I think it's going to be more of a question of when do you do it, but I think the exploring the idea of coming back to Mauritius or to the home country is certainly that's been discussed a lot widely among my friends, at least.
I think we should allow the bird to fly a little.
And then come back to the nest.
The nest is here.
The nest is here.
But birds have the expertise sometimes to build multiple nests as well, as long as they don't forsake their original nest.
Right.
All right? Because birds belong to the world, just like the students, children global citizens if they feel that they can give their best elsewhere. Just like you and many others, I've had so many students, my own kids, etc. It all depends where they feel at ease. But as a policymaker, it is important for me, as I said, it is important we create the situation, the environment for those whom we have sponsored their studies, etc. They come back because basically your roots are here. You belong to Mauritius and you should come back. And as you said, it all depends when, at which point in your career. And different peoples have different motives, different motivation, reasons for what they do. That is why I'm not judgmental towards them. It's up to them, to the individuals, to decide at the end of the day, what is their priority. All right? Once their priorities are set, they themselves will decide whether they are going to stay away or to come back to their original nest.
I certainly appreciate the no judging and the empathy that I sense from here, because most of the time when I ask the question, it's somehow a very direct, one-sided answer, but there's always reason to come back. And I certainly hear there's reason to come back, but I do appreciate the honesty in terms of letting the birds fly and then come back to the nest when they feel ready. It's a beautiful analogy.
That is why we have birds which migrate sometimes. It all depends because of the seasons and so on. Because when the season is not fine, they better go elsewhere. And when it is fine, they come back. So this analogy, I will apply it for students, for children as well. Because as long as they are happy, as long as they are doing something good for themselves, their families, as long as they're living their dreams, their aspirations, we should provide them this opportunity as well. We shouldn't be judgmental towards them.
So my very last question for you. When did the passion for politics, when did you come about realizing that there was a passion for politics beside education? And if you were to reflect on your journey, I certainly recall when you went through the election and then you serve as a member of the opposition. Through my family, or when you got the chance to speak to my dad, you were telling him about anecdotes of obviously when the party wasn't elected. It was a tough time. And then you finally became in power and you're now the Minister of Education and Human Resource. When you reflect on your journey and if you were to put into perspective your passion for politics when it came about, what can you tell us about your journey? How do you feel today reflecting on this amazing journey you've had so far?
As a general paper teacher, I couldn't not get connected with politics because we used to discuss a lot of political issues.
True.
And that reflection on politics has always been on. Now, I didn't expect to join politics, to be honest, but the call came and I accepted it. Definitely, active politics is demanding. People may not realize it. Let me share with you the first reflection I had when I got this call to join politics, and I told my family, I asked all of them to sit down, and this is what I told them, and I'll repeat it. I told them if I were to die as a teacher and as a rector, the procession of my funeral, there will be a lot of people who will grieve and cry, and I would get an excellent farewell for the teacher that I was. But now that I'm joining politics, those people who will come, half of them will not be happy with me, will curse me, and perhaps half of them will be sad. Because once you join politics, you give the public the opportunity to judge you, to comment on you, to be wild against you, to say anything they want. All right? All the good qualities that you may have will all of a sudden be nullified by some. No matter what you do, there will always be a group of people, because of your political positioning, they will not accept you.
Right.
And this is sometimes, it's a tragic consciousness, because you feel you're giving your best. And even when you give your best, sometimes it is not enough, because we have to operate within certain parameters, and certain parameters are within our control, certain parameters are not within our control. And on top of that, if you adhere to values where you want to do things the way they should be done, some people may accept, some people may not accept it. And again, there is collective responsibility. So if a government takes a decision, it is a collective decision. I cannot pick and choose, this one I'm happy, this one I'm not happy. So I adhere to all the decisions taken by the government. Okay? So at the end of the day, I have to accept criticisms. I get a lot of praise as well, but a lot of criticisms, but I take them with a lot of humility, because this is what a politician's life is all about. Second thing, it is you sacrifice a lot of your personal time, family time, because it is a 24-hour thing. And you have to live up to a lot of expectations. You can't imagine how much expectations are there outside. And a few things are possible, but unfortunately, a few things will not be possible, especially during one mandate to complete them. So we try our best. And if I were to reflect, this political journey, it is a tough one, but I like it. You have to put your heart in it, because you have to serve your country, you have to serve your people. As long as you are doing it with good intentions, you are there for the welfare of others, you feel good, you feel that, okay, my conscience tells me you have done the thing rightly, you feel okay, and you have a good sleep. Otherwise, it would be a real mess.
So if you had to do it all over again, would you do it again?
I will, certainly. But perhaps with more, I would be more careful on a few issues. I would take more precautions. But definitely, I'm living it with a lot of passion today.
So what will be your last message for a student like myself watching you? I know you are now a Minister of Education, but some would recall you as the teacher, director. What will be your message to them and also to the rest of the country watching you?
It has always been give your best in life. Choose the area, the sector where you can shine. Because every one of us, we have something hidden in us. And don't allow people to come and demean you. Don't allow people to come and be judgmental towards you. Take up challenges, but without arrogance. Accept sometimes that we may fail, we will fail. It is never written that we will always be successful in all our undertakings. Sometimes there are ups, there are downs, but we have to live all of them with the same poise. It is easily said than done, but I find a lot of youngsters today who are easily discouraged, who are unhappy, who live anxiety with a lot of pain and so on. Talk about whatever feelings you have with close ones, but understand that society has changed today. It is not what it used to be. And we can count the number of genuine friends we have, genuine well-wishers we have. Don't go and feel that if on social media, if you have 10,000 people around you, all of them are really genuine friends. There are a lot of onlookers. Unfortunately, many would like you not to succeed. Only a few ones will be there. They may not come forward, but their blessings come directly from their heart to you. And you feel it when you meet those people. And when you meet them, make sure you cherish your friendship, their loyalty and so on. And when you get something, give back as well. It is important we give back to society whatever we've got. And you can achieve anything or everything. But if you're not happy with yourself, if you're not happy within your family, you will always be a miserable person.
That was a beautiful message. Honourable Dr. Mahend Gungapersad, sir, thank you very much for joining me here today. I would like to take the time to express my gratitude one more time, because you've played an instrumental role in mine and my sister's education. And beyond the education class, I think you've always had a special place in our heart, way before politics, for having been somewhat of a fatherly figure. we don't have to get into details, but I certainly have amazing memories from our class with you, the friends that we made, the friends who we formed such really great friendships. But the particular one was when you came in class with our birthday cake celebrating our 18th birthday. That will always remain very, very special. Thank you for being a part of our lives. Thank you for the work that you do and for serving the country.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me, for allowing me to express myself, which I don't always do. And thank you, and all the best in your undertakings. And I have no doubt that you will keep on shining as you have always done.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.